What's up, Alex?
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back.
And looks like we got Mikey Luck Knives in the house. He was one of the first people about 5 minutes ago. He chimed in and said hi.
He was actually the second person. I want to
Yeah,
make
you were.
that very clear,
Well, actually, maybe you were. Well, I was first.
Well, we are
Our
one entity.
Oh,
So,
that's right. And then our guest
as you can
was
see in
our
the
our
comments,
yeah. So
it's
our
Dirk.
guest was second,
Yes,
really,
yes.
and
Well,
then Luck would have been third, actually.
nah, nah, nah,
Yeah,
not
we'll
all.
give him second because our guest is kind of one and the same.
Yeah. All
So
right. So,
our guest today is Rit from Avian Knives, and we're going to talk about the Atlas, their one and first model. And we switched it to Saturday because he's in Bangkok, Thailand, or outside of Bangkok. He can tell us exactly
that's
where.
what she said.
And oh boy, and it's
Yeah.
Sunday morning for him, so we wanted to not do it Monday morning for him. So we just switched it to Saturday, which works for me and Alex, of course. And maybe if we ask nice, Rick can tell us what happens in the future. Since it is tomorrow morning there. I don't know. All right, let's bring him on real quick here and get started. Rit,
All right.
welcome.
All right. Thank you so much for having me here.
Now
Welcome.
we appreciate you taking the time. I know that it's your Sunday morning there. You had to finish breakfast and all that stuff to join us. So we appreciate that. I think this is our first well, now we had Aussie Mike on as a guest from Australia once. So you're our second international guest,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty cool. And I see Aussie Mike in the house. Welcome, Aussie Mike and Wilson and Will Carey, some of our regulars there. So that's
Knife
cool.
DNA. I've been seeing him around lately.
Knife
Welcome.
DNA, yep. So, and we don't really kind of go through and say hi to every single person and spend 20 minutes kind of doing roll call, but we do appreciate all of you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate you, Michael and Joe and Brett and Michael part 2 and Brett part 2 and yeah, all of you guys.
Exactly.
What's up, CPM?
But yeah, if you guys got questions as we get into this stuff, put them in the comments. We'll try to catch them all. Sometimes it's scrolling and we miss them, but you know. So we asked Rit to come on because he sent me one of his knives. I got to do a video on it. I have then sent it down to Alex, and now Alex has it and is good to check it out. And Alex is going to give us his take on it. If you saw my video, you already heard my take, but we'll talk about it. But first off, Rit, what is it that you carry or can you carry in Thailand on a daily basis as a knife?
Well, in the past few years, it's always been customs, and it's always changing around.
Okay.
And nowadays, it's always the Atlas if I have one.
Sorry, we'll get it back, but you know.
So I have a different carry now, but I'll show you later.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So you are allowed to carry knives there where you are.
Yes, it's kind of like a gray area almost.
Okay.
So technically, you can't carry like automatics or anything like that.
Okay.
You know, or there's like the 3-inch blade limit, but people don't really care. You can have like a huge thing sticking out of your pocket, and they don't really know what it is.
Gotcha.
It's a very different.
Yeah, because
very
3
different
inches is 3 inches
Yeah.
doesn't give you a lot of pleasure, you know.
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, but I
Okay.
think most people don't mind anyways. So
Yeah, it's a decent size.
Yeah,
It
no,
fits
that works.
well. It fits well, but you know, needs a little bit of encouragement.
mm-hmm.
Exactly. I think CPM kind of knows where we're going with this. Do you get it? CPM knows who Alex is anyway. All right, so Alex, what were you carrying today as you were bebopping around?
I was carrying this zero tolerance 0470. This one is modified actually by a good friend down here in Long Beach, Mr. Sean Campbell, pretty popular knife modder, and
Oh,
he
for
did.
sure.
Oh yeah, he's great. Dirk knows him. He's
Yep.
done some work with him, and he did an acid wash. He did like a fine kind of what do you call that? Spinning bristle.
Engine
Kind of
turn.
orange. Well, he did like an orange peel
Orange peel.
texture, right? Kind of orange peel polish to it. So
Okay.
it's not much different than the factory setup. It's got a dark matter insert here, red
Yep.
dark matter, but it's just a little bit different, you know, and that's all I needed. So I just gave it to him. I said, do your thing. And, you know, I already got the insert covered and you do the rest. And that's what popped out. So cool knife.
Yeah, Sean's great. He's done some work for me on several different, like 4 or 5 knives over the course of time. And then I got to meet him at last year's CCKS. So, and then I ran into him this year also down there. So yeah, cool guy, totally down to earth and great. I think Rit, you've had him do some stuff also, haven't you?
Yes, I've had him do a bodega.
That's
so
right. Which I hear has a new owner.
Yes, now it does. Yes.
Yeah, I'm good friends with the new owner also. So I did hear about that. So congrats for that. That was an awesome deal. But I won't go into too many details on that one. But
yeah.
And then
Sean's
Alex, you had a go ahead, Alex.
And he's, you know, the thing about Sean, interesting fact, most people don't know, he's a former like law enforcement guy. I don't want to get into like specifics, but
yes,
like he's he's a blue boy, you know.
Yeah, we've talked about that, him and I
cool
as well.
dude.
Yeah,
Yep.
very cool. My brother is my older brother retired, I think 6 years ago now from the sheriff's office himself. So up here in the
by the way, talking about Dirk's brother, because we don't ever bring Griff up enough. I think we should have him on as a guest, actually, Dirk.
Oh.
But Griff is also a knife collector like Dirk and carries really actually nice knives too. Knows probably almost just as much about them. And has way better jokes.
No, he doesn't have better jokes than me. He has pretty good jokes. Like
he does have some good jokes.
We are cut from the same cloth, my brother and I, no doubt. And he collects differently. So, and I'll talk to him about it, but he is a very big Chris Reeve knives fan. He mostly carries Chris Reeve knives. He's got some, you know, custom one-offs and like some very special CRK.
But he doesn't fall into the hype.
He doesn't fall into the hype, and he only has maybe 10 or 12 knives total in his collection. He's had a bunch, but he tries to keep it in that 10 to 15 number. But he's had a Hellraisers. He's had some of the stuff that I've kind of maybe not hyped, but I've recommended, and he's tried them, and then he sold them. He's a lot like this guy I know in Thailand that buys knives and then sells them like the next day, and like or sells them sight unseen. My brother's actually bought one and sold it before it arrived to him. When he got it, he turned it around and just shipped it right back out. I don't even think he opened it. So, yeah, that kind of reminds me of this guy I know in Thailand. I think, you know, I had a knife come in that was his, and then all of a sudden after the video, maybe before the video, goes, "Oh, hey, ship it to this guy in LA for me instead of to me." I was like, "What?" So there's no wrong way to collect. That's kind of my point. Right?
No. I'm a knife hoarder, but
I'm not a hoarder, but I'm kind of a hoarder also. Alex is the hoarder. Did you have a watch on today, Alex?
I did. I wanted to match the red, right? And kind of like that dark theme, right?
Okay.
So we got the
G-Shock?
It's a G-Shock special edition, but it was plastic originally, so I put like a metal kit on it.
Ah, that's right. Okay.
So it's kind of cool, like an all-metal red screen G-Shock.
Cool. Well, I was wearing the white dial, orange bezel Omega Planet Ocean, which probably came out looking pretty weird on my wrist there. But you guys have seen it before. I did a little YouTube short on it today and whatever. And then I didn't leave the house, so I didn't really carry anything today. But I filmed this guy today, the Shirogorov Stellar. So I had this kind of a lot in my hands and whatnot as I got ready to film.
Mhm.
And then the other one that I have a hard time getting out of my hands is the RJ Martin Shirogorov collaboration, the RQ36, that I'm honored Mr. Ed loaned me to check out because I was not worthy enough to be chosen in the lotto. Which makes me
Mr.
very
Ed's got
sad.
some great stuff.
Makes me very
nice.
sad because the ridiculous secondary price right now. Somebody actually offered me over $3,000 for this yesterday. It's not even mine. And I said, well, it's not mine. It's just a loaner. He goes, oh, tell the owner. And then I talked to the owner and a couple of other people. And that particular guy had offered that same amount to like 3 or 4 people yesterday. Yeah, it's cool, but it's not $3,000. That's just hype and stuff. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, if you got the cash like that to just throw on it, why not? But you know.
If somebody had one for in that 2,500 range, I would buy one. But
right.
I'm not spending $3,000. I'm not offering anybody $3,000. I just, I'm not gonna. It's not worth it for me. I love it, but it's not worth it to me.
What were you carrying, Rit?
I think he wants to wait that until later, so we'll maybe come back to him. But
how about the watch? Any watches?
No watches for me.
Oh,
nah.
You tell the time. You tell the time by looking a hair past a freckle. Is that right? Like you're just looking, you're like, oh yeah, there's the shadow. We gotta get you into watches, man. That's a fun hobby.
I hope the snow melts slowly so that we don't have a lot of flooding. We have enough problems with flooding and stuff here in my area from the rain. It stopped today. It's going to rain again all night tonight and most of the next 5 or 6 days. So it's a problem. But the snow is ridiculous in the mountains for sure. Yeah, CPM, you know the deal. And I was offered over $3,000. I won't even go into specifics, but it was over 3. All right, so let's talk about Avian knives. And there's a link to Avian knives in the description of this video, so you guys can check that out. Please go check that out. But tell us a little bit about yourself, Rit. I know you were a collector turned designer turned knife company owner.
Sort of. So basically, my background, I've been collecting for about 7 years. I started off with actually an automatic from Ratworks, I believe it was.
The chain drive?
Yes,
yeah.
And then I found Jim's channel. I found the Apostle Peace channel.
Jim screwed us all in a good way.
Yes.
In a good way, but damn, yeah. Jim, blame him for a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I think the way I collect is a little bit different. So I don't have, like Dirk said, I don't carry or don't keep the pieces for super long because I do want to experience as many as possible, especially the rare ones. And, once you go on to the higher end and you get something of high value, you would be able to sell it or trade it for something, that's equally as good. And that is one way for me to cut through the hype because a lot of collectors who like to, well, I know, Dirk, you buy and you keep and you carry. So that's how you really know if it's actually a good knife or not. But I wanted to know, what is actually a good knife. So I kept a few, like I carried all of them basically and use it. And I see, which one cuts well, which one doesn't cut well, which one the action messes up, no matter the price range. It can go over 10K and I'll still carry it. No problem. Because I also know that the makers will take care of it for you. And you also know in the end, it comes down to you do know if it's good or not for you, if it's a good fit, and like overall how if it's if it's gonna hold up, and it's not just like a art piece.
Well, I
Agreed.
just want to highlight one thing you said right there, because you said right there, and you know the maker is going to take care of it. And that is one thing I'd advocate a lot about more higher end custom knives, is to have less fear of using them, because
Yes.
I actually feel more comfortable having somebody to send it back to for the most part and getting it fixed versus a production. I'm going to deal with a lot of people. And so it's different, you know. But yeah, that's a very, very good point you made. I'm glad you brought that up.
I've had good luck with my high-end customs. There was one that Alex knows about. It was a 5-figure knife that it took a little damage. Reached out to the maker, and they said send it in, and I was totally at fault, and they fixed it and got sent back. Same with my VC Edge interface, my full dress. I broke it. Like I was
Didn't
very
that
honest
one
about it.
do? So this is the floor, and it just went.
And we're not talking about what happened, but on my VC Edge interface, literally 5 minutes after I pulled it out of the box, I broke it. Like I squeezed on it and I broke the scale. And I talked to Jason and sent it back. He redesigned it that night in CAD. And by the time I had shipped it to him, he had printed out, figured out new pieces and rebuilt it and brought it back. And it's in great shape now. So as you get into the higher end makers, they really do take care of you. That's really a true statesman.
Mm-hmm. My experiences as well.
So a quick question here from CPM. He missed the pre-order for the Atlas. Will there be more opportunities?
Yes, for sure. We're working on finishing up the pre-orders right now, and we're at the same time we're also planning out the next batch. So definitely you'll have that opportunity.
So will that be another pre-order for the second batch?
The second batch I plan to complete it first before offering it up. Yeah.
Okay.
But that may or may not change, but that's the current plan.
Got it. Okay.
And and just going back, because after many years of collecting, I found that for my personal preference, the way I use knives, which for me is like a lot of cutting fruit. When I travel, I like to bring something very light. I like the knives around like a 3-inch blade length.
Yes.
So yeah, for me, it's like a very cool design, very EDC friendly, more modern design that's focused purely on like being light and slicey. So I don't need the knife to be bulky or have like a thicker, blade stock, because that's not the way I use my knives. I don't pry or do those types of things.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you said I know this is the style of knife you like, and it sounds like you like a practical knife, something simple and a nice working tool, right? But do you have, and I'm only asking this because I made a purchase recently of a very impractical knife. As a matter of fact, you need to wear the sheath to carry this thing around, but it is a folding knife. Dirk knows which one I'm talking about.
Yep.
The shapeshifter.
Yep.
But it is the coolest, weirdest thing, right? Do you have any knives that are completely impractical, but you just bought it just because?
I have bought like Diowares before.
Okay.
To try it out, because I didn't know what I would like or wouldn't like. I also would put the Bodega is a much better carry, but it's still a bigger knife than what I usually like. But I just like to. It's still really really fun to experience it. It's just that if I can have only one knife, for me it will be something smaller and lighter. And then I. Just about a year or two ago, about 2 years ago, I decided I wanted to, I've learned so much about knives, but right now, all the only thing I'm doing is I'm spending money on it. I'm also making friends, but I have so much time invested. I wanted to do something with it. And I also figured, I really wanted to add something to the community,
Mm-hmm.
something that's, new, refreshing. I didn't want to make the same thing that's already out there. So,
Right.
so that's like the beginning of, why I wanted to start my own knife company. And obviously, as a collector, I don't know how to make knives, but I do know many knife makers, and I talked to a lot of knife makers. And eventually, I found Seth, who I thought was, he was very skillful,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows CAD. So if you want to do a production, or a large production of knives, you have to know CAD. So a lot of custom makers that I know don't know how to use CAD, right? So they'll hire someone
Right.
else, like someone like Todd Begg, who did his mid-techs. He had a programmer to help
Yeah,
him
for
with
sure.
the CAD. So it was, easier to have someone who already knows how to do CAD to work on the knives, someone who's very flexible, because I know a lot of makers also would want to make their own designs.
Mm-hmm.
So Seth was very flexible. He was very easy to contact, talk to, and he has all the right skill sets. I've had one of his knives before, and I made it super difficult for him to build. It was basically like a complex build, where you had many different pieces
Oh,
that are
yes.
put together, which are screwless. So that's, and he was able to pull it off. So I thought that was very impressive. And Jim also had good reviews on Seth, and that's how I initially found out about him. And when I first found Seth, he did have a design actually on his Instagram that was this like no tool takedown design, but it was very
Mm-hmm.
different from this. The styling was similar to his older pieces. It had like a really big blade that was more curved than this one even, and it
Okay.
had compound grind. It was very thick.
Mm.
And but I told him this is like my vision is for the company. I really wanted to focus on purely lightweight because I don't think there aren't really many companies out there at all who are going to make purely lightweight, smaller like knives. So we wanted to be known for that, and we wanted to tackle that market because there are many people who like a Richard Rogers, like a smaller flipper, um, but and this weight category at like 2.5 ounces. If you look at the market, there's only mostly like a button lock with micarta scales. That's how you get the weight down.
Yep.
So there aren't many out there, or you have to find customs like Richard Rogers, which are small and light. But I wanted to have a production where there's many different opening methods, including a flipper that's on bearings, that's small, light, thin, and really tackle this. And Seth has his toolless takedown, idea where I thought this is just perfect because when I travel and I cut fruits and it wet, I don't want to have to disassemble with a screw,
Mm-hmm.
reassemble it and use a Loctite on it. This is like the perfect idea for EDC. So that all came together around the beginning of 2022, where
Okay.
we started talking very seriously, designed a knife together, and had by June we had it ready for a blade show, or at least about like 7 pieces for the show,
Okay.
and pretty nice feedback. And that's when we thought, okay, let's open the pre-order, and that brings us to today. Yeah, so it's very
Well,
much a team effort.
you
Where
definitely nailed the small and lightweight category for sure. And for those of you, I just had it up on the screen in case you didn't know what knife we were talking about. It's certainly lightweight. It's certainly small, a little small for my hands, but I get the premise behind it. The lightweight, the easy to carry, and really, do we need a 4-inch blade ever? Like, do we really need that in your everyday stuff? No, I admit that we don't. 2.5, 3-inch blade is more than fine for 99% of the stuff we do on a daily basis. if you're going out camping or something like that, then you may need something bigger. Maybe you probably really just need a 3-inch knife and a fixed blade. But
Yep.
we all like big knife. I mean, we all collect differently. So I think this definitely fits a niche.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and I also wanted to like have it be in full titanium as well, with like a nice full back spacer and still keep it, under 3 ounces. And I was really, really happy when Seth was able to do that. So
No, I agree. And you guys are shipping now the pre-orders, or do you still QCing them
Yes.
before they ship?
we're shipping them a little by little. So
Okay.
we had the first batch sent out, which is about like 15 knives.
Okay. And have people gotten them yet, or are they still shipping?
They're still shipping.
Okay.
So some people have received it, and yeah.
Okay, cool.
Working on completing more pieces.
How many were in the pre-order?
There's not many, about 60. So
Okay.
it should hopefully not be too difficult to finish all of them. Currently, with the workload, so I forgot to tell you about the process of making the knives themselves, because this was it's a new thing for me, and I thought it might be interesting.
It is a little different, and I think I touched on it in my video, but please tell us how the steps are and where things happen, because it all doesn't happen at the same spot.
Yes, and it can change in the future too.
Yeah.
So basically, first off, obviously you have to get the raw materials, and you have to do the first step is getting it water jet. So you have to find a water jet company to do that, which not every CNC manufacturer or whatever has a water jet company.
Right.
So, but essentially, it's like a really rough cut. So like the blade would look really ugly. It's just like so you just have a rough shape of it, but standardized rough shape.
Correct.
And then you send that over to a CNC manufacturer, which I found in Thailand locally. And fun fact, it took maybe about 15 discussions with different manufacturers, because they either said it was too difficult to build or the cost was just way too high. We even got a quote for just the CNC machining part. It was like $1,000 to do the CNC. And most of them are around that price just to do the CNC, because they said without the screw and you have to make it this precise, it's very difficult to do. So, and that's why you don't see, like
has to be really tight tolerances when there's no screws. I mean, there's hardware, there is a pivot and things like that, but it fits together one way, and that's the only way it fits together. You can't tighten the pivot, you can't loosen the pivot, you can't shim it a little bit to make it go together. It just won't go together if it's messed up. So yeah, there's a lot of extra costs involved in making parts like that.
And you have to make parts that are gonna last, right? Because
you
have to think about the hardened materials of them going, to be able to on and off, because people are going to take that thing apart if you allow them to. A lot, some of them,
And they're probably going to take it apart more because it doesn't need any tools.
Yes.
So they're going to just take it apart, even though it doesn't need to come apart. They're going to be like, I ain't doing anything for the next 10 minutes. Let me just take it apart, wipe it down, put it back together just because I can. So, which is the whole point.
Yeah. And then for the next steps in the manufacturing, you have to get someone who has a surface grinder. So once it's water jet, it has to be surface ground to be flat. There are several different methods of doing it. I used to think surface grinding was the flattest way that you can do things, but actually that isn't necessarily the case. There are like a few other methods. One thing that Chris Reeve uses is like It's like a machine that basically you have a fixture and you place the part in and it just rolls around like this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and it's that one is like the flattest one that you can use.
Dirk,
But
bring up
surface grinding can warp the pieces a little bit, but usually if you don't put too much heat on it, it'll be flat. And then you put it in a CNC machine after that if it's the frames. But for the blades, you need to heat treat it first. So you have to find someone who has a heat treat,
Dirk,
place
bring up
else.
What do you want to look up?
Bring up the picture of the knife again, like when it's all split apart.
Yeah.
Because I really, yes. So now you can explain it to us, because this is a great picture, and I think it actually says a lot. I mean, look at the backspacer. That's so cool how it all puzzles together. And it's very intricate. So tell me more about like the design, because this is more like we're going beyond function. We're going more into like an artistic interpretation of making something really cool, right? So tell me about the design behind this, all the ideas.
Sure. So the initial design that Seth had, that was like very big, bulky, had a compound grind. It's very, I guess, very, very different, quite aggressive and unique. And when I came in, I told them, actually, I wanted it, first of all, it's like the small end light, obviously. But second, I really wanted a sleek, modern design. I wanted to have many angles, many chamfers, because when you try to draw your own knife, it will look it looks very plain or very odd, even though you try your hardest. At least for me, I tried to draw something for Seth, and it looks really bad. But I knew, what types of lines that I liked or appreciated in other knives in the past. So I took some clues and some elements. For example, like the backspacer part. There was a really old Jim Burke that he did where similarly the frame goes down like this one, and he has a one-piece backspacer, but it's screwed in. That makes it look very nice. And it was like a Timascus backspacer with like a steel frame. So that was like, that looked really sick. But it was curvy, so it's like a different design. But that element of having that, backspacer that's big, that's really, what I thought looked great. So I told him, this is, something that I would like to have. And he essentially drew it up in CAD, and we had like a back and forth. And I told him, like, again, if you look at the backspacer alone, the different angles, like on the top part is a little bit narrower than it widens out. So like those types of lines, I told him we need to have those chamfers because it makes it, very, very sleek. I think like Shurgorov does a great job on that. Rexford is also someone that, inspires us a lot with his like angular designs. But we didn't want to copy him, and he makes very different knives. It's like a much larger piece, like a 3.5, thicker, bigger knife. So this has to be slimmer and, but still retain that modern design. I think a few people did compare us with Cinex 10 with the toolless disassembly and also like the modernistic design. But Cinex has a very different approach because his is also very like a hard use approach. His toolless design, the IFS 20, was very, very thick. Actually, it's for hard use for sure. Ours is also like you can use it pretty hard given the the size and the weight. But it's like a different purpose for the knife. And he also did like the Buster where he chopped the coconuts with. So this is like completely different than that as well.
Well, that's funny you bring that up because when I got the knife, I had this talk with Dirk, and the first thing I said is like, "Well, this is kind of cool, I'm like, but it's not the first time I've seen a toolless takedown knife. Like I saw Snex, which there's that CKF version of the Terra, that he did as well. And then there's the CRKT, which is actually relatively inexpensive. And they had a really kind of clever way of tying the whole thing together with a rotary backspacer, and then the quick lever with a like kind of a cam lock design on the pivot, right? But yet with that idea, like with this knife even in the mix, they're all completely kind of different approaches of like doing the toolless knife. Having a toolless knife is not an original idea, but it's just kind of like how you put the thing together. And the thing that I liked about yours, and I'm not gonna compare you to Snex, because to me, the idea of a toolless knife is the only thing that I would think that they're comparable with. Otherwise, they're completely different knives, you know. And as you mentioned, the Snex are big knives. And even like when you buy the production Wii Mini Buster, it's still a relatively sizable knife overall. So for me, my thing is the way I look at this picture and I interpret a few things. As you mentioned, one of the things that I can notice right off the bat is the approach of trying to.
Oh boy, did we lose Alex?
We might have.
You're frozen. All right, we'll come back to Alex when he comes back, but I want to touch on this one here. Lone Wolf says, I missed the location of manufacturing. Was it in Thailand? And the answer is not
Taiwan, but Thailand.
So, yeah, not Taiwan, but is it really manufactured in Thailand? No.
Right now it's I guess like almost half. I think the CNC parts, etc., are done in Thailand, and then it's shipped to the US to Seth, and he does the fit and finishing of the knives. So it's not just assembling it together. Right now he spends at least 8 hours per knife to do the finishing and tuning. So it's still quite a lot of work per knife, because he has to grind the blade. He has to put all the stuff together. And, you know, in the beginning, we wanted to make the parts interchangeable even. But we thought in the end, it wasn't possible, because each knife has to be like, when you fit the pins together.
It's got to be individual.
You'll have a 0.002 inch, like plus or minus, each part. And there's around 5 parts here. There's the 2 frames, there's the blade, and there's the pivot retainers. So if you get each one is like 0.2 off, you know, we can have like a 0.01 inch, you know, difference in the tolerance, and that alone would, you know, give you like a blade wobble or something. So there's like plenty of things that can happen if it's just, you know, 0.1 inch off, where that's still like a lot smaller than a human hair, but it's more than enough to, you know, have like a side to side play, have like D10 play or whatever. So each time you have to put it together, you have to like, he has to tune it so it's just right for each knife, and it's not the same for every knife.
Right. And that's I think I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't think people realize the amount of work that goes into that part of it, you know. I mean,
so even with the CNC, it's you know, you need a lot of handwork to get it to fit together. If you have a knife with screws, you can potentially just like, you can screw it together to the right tightness and it'll be fine. But then this design
adjustable.
A lot of headaches.
And if you have to, you could add extra washers, right? We know some manufacturers that might have 2 washers on this side, 1 on the other side. So you don't have that option with these types of tolerances. So Lone Wolf, did we answer your question? It's really not made in Thailand, but it's not really made in the USA either.
Yes. But in the future, we're not sure yet, because Seth, you know, eventually just wants to become the key designer for the company, and then work on new innovation instead of having to always build knives and, you know, not having time to design new blade shapes or new designs, essentially, or new innovation.
Yeah,
So we're trying to move more and more to Thailand, where I can
Mhm.
also help with QCing all the parts, visiting all the factories.
right.
It'll be
Okay.
easier for me at least to travel around and have a look and meet people to make
So I think
sure
it's a new company that's not fully evolved, that's still, getting their initial orders out and still looking to the future to evolve and figure out exactly the directions that you guys want to go
Yeah.
for
Well,
every certain aspect, which I think is a great spot to be in.
I think it's a clever design, and I think it's got a future because it's you could look at the design and just see like how fun someone's gonna have, how much fun they're gonna have looking inside of this thing when they take it apart, right? Like all the channels and all the pockets. There's a few of us knife makers
There's a
out
lot
there
going on.
that can literally like sit and look at a knife taken apart and just admire it, right? From all the millings. Some of us that like are like Shiro guys. If you look at the amount of time that they spend on the inside, it's funny to some people, but it makes us smile because we know it's there, right? So for me, I like the fact that there is like some asymmetry to it, but then there's a lot of symmetry as well. And it looks like it's all done kind of on purpose. And it's
Mhm.
got kind of this futuristic look. Now, when I originally first handled this knife, like one of the things that I thought was that it feels like a production knife for sure in the handle. Like for me, it's got kind of the Vero design, best tech kind of feel to it, right? And
Mhm.
it's where like I think the thing shines really well is the blade. The blade feels like a custom hand ground blade. It feels like somebody went in there with a wheel and
Mhm.
ground it out so thin, and it has that feel to it, which is really, really nice. And that's one of the things that really kind of stood out to me about this knife. I think a lot of people will agree the blade is really, this thing shines really well. So I really like that aspect of it. The
Mhm.
pocket on the inside is a bit large for my taste, and I get the idea behind it. And it looks very nice, by the way. Everybody's looking at that. You can see, that's intentionally there. But then, being that it's not a flipper, like to the traditional sense, it's very easy to cut yourself with this knife when closing it. And that is one thing that I think just takes
Mhm.
getting used to on how you do it. You can kind of close it sideways like this, but being that it closes so fast, that is something that maybe someone who doesn't have a lot of knives might
Yes.
need some band-aids for. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah. So that's
So
also one of the things that we're looking to fix. So that prototype doesn't have a detent ramp, and one of the things that we added to the first run actually is the detent ramp, which makes it a lot easier easier to control the
Mhm.
closing of the knife. The other one is that it won't be as drop shotty as this one, because that's my personal knife. So I want
Right.
to. Because
I was gonna say some people are gonna jump through the screen and completely disagree with me. They're gonna like this is what they're gonna want.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a lot of guys that they're like, oh yeah, I want this thing to just, ooh, ouch,
Mhm.
they like that stuff. There is guys, you seen the Norseman guys, they play this like guillotine finger in between with the knife,
Yeah,
and it's like slams shut, like almost getting their finger. So there are those guys out there that love that stuff.
I
Um,
I like Bad Monkey's comment here. Having the inside as sexy as the outside is a hell of a plus. I
well,
agree.
yeah,
Like that picture that we had up on the screen a minute ago, that disassembly one. I almost want to get that picture from you, Rit, and have it printed out 8x10 and hang on my wall here in my office because I love that. Like it's art right there.
it
I,
says
I
a
just think
lot.
that's great. I love that.
It does say a
Thank you.
lot.
And then
It's
we do have a question here from Aussie Mike, the Knife Inquisitor. Rid, do you think the direction of Avian knives is to incorporate the toolless element in every knife design moving forward?
um, the answer is no, actually, because for the gist for avian knives overall is to be like light, very EDC user friendly. So it's going to be light, thin. That's the key DNA. The toolless direction is more of like an add-on to
Okay.
that. So that will be on the higher end knives that we have the toolless design. And finally, I can bring out my EDC, which is actually a new design called the Topasa.
Oh wow! Look
This
at
Hold
that.
on, let me switch you over here to the big screen there. Okay.
This is not a toolless design, but it's focused purely on lightweight and being slim. So this is the side dimensions.
Wow.
This is a full titanium knife that weighs 1.6 ounces.
One
Wow.
point. What? Wait. What?
1.6 ounces.
Dude, my full carbon fiber over here from VC Edge is 1.6 and 1.5.
Yes. So
Wow, you did
All right,
that.
when do I get my hands on that one?
Special thing about this one. So this is a prototype, but this is going to be made in China. This particular run is by Tuya Knives. So it's going to be at a more obviously a more affordable price point. So this will be kind of like our production run where we do have it still has like the screw and everything.
Okay.
But we want to have like two different levels of knives. So this would be what we call the glide class for the production knives, and then for our mid-techs, that will be called the fly class, which is what Alex currently has, which is the Atlas with the toolless design. But we wanted to make this one available as well, so it's essentially the same shape as the Atlas, but I didn't want to use the same name to confuse people.
Yeah.
Call it a new name. It's called the Topasa. So this is the first time I'm showing it in public.
Wow.
Especially just for this live stream.
I want to check it
awesome.
out. I need one of those because if it's as light as a VC Edge, I need to have one to compare.
Yeah, because you're doing it with titanium over carbon fiber. Too.
Yeah, and 3/4 of the blade of my VC Edges are carbon fiber also. So yeah, count me in for one of them, a prototype one. Like I need one of those.
I don't know. You've been collecting knives for a while, right? It almost like gives me that and I don't know how many people are going to remember that knife, but it reminds me of the old Lion Steel tie dust. I don't know if you remember that one.
I don't remember that.
Literally a titanium 3D printed knife, like titanium does 3D print, and they skeletonized like the whole handle like that. Like that is super, 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 super cool. I like that.
Very cool for sure.
I like that.
We've got a question from Will Carey. Do you have a modified sheep's foot or a modified Tonto in the works? Have you gotten that far? Do you have any other designs that we don't need to talk about the specifics of any future designs, but do you have other ones that you're kind of thinking of and sketching out at this point?
Yes, we do have like different blade shapes planned out. So the sheep's foot maybe we'll do more like a Warncliffe just because it's more angular according to the design. The Tanto we're still thinking because generally that's more for like thicker knives that don't need to stamp as much. It's more like
that's
design wise it's less cool, but function wise not as good of a fit for something that's this thin.
Agreed.
Usually something this thin it'll be run on washers, but this one has the special 1 millimeter size bearings, so it's like a super tiny bearings.
Wow. All right, yeah, I definitely need to see that. Nick Young chimes in here and he says, I have one of the first pre-orders that he's already gotten shipped to him, and it doesn't drop free shut, has a very nice hydraulic feel. Dude, that's awesome. Thanks for chiming in, Nick. That's great to hear that you have one, and I'm assuming that you love it and it's all great, of course. But so like I said in my video, and Alex, he talked about this is Rit's pre-production prototype that I had my video on, that Alex has in his hand. So it's not one of the production ones that is going to feel and look, not really look different, but it's going to act differently.
Yeah. I think there's also a difference between this one and the production ones that we released. So
Yes.
the pre-production one, my personal one, the pivot is actually a screw. So it's not a screwless knife, but it's made in such a way where like you can red Loctite it. You tune it just right, red Loctite it, and then it'll be good from there, which is what I did here. But we did find in a few pieces that the red Loctite actually didn't hold it in for some reason, and it came loose on a few, of the pre-production pieces. So we decided to go to like the fully no screw pivot, which is on the actual run, where you instead of like turning the screw, Seth has to actually sand out the retainers and things like that just to make it right. So yeah, the action will be as we didn't want it to be drop shot though, because that's a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, agreed.
I think a hydraulic shot is just right.
Well, Nick says you nailed it. Now, Will, I know Will personally. He's a local guy to me, so we've had lunch and hung out. Like, I know Will. He's a big Tonto, Warncliffe, Sheepsfoot guy. So maybe do a thinner blade Tonto, but in a chisel grind. So he's gonna ping you every so often for that.
Sounds good. We'll definitely consider it, because at chisel grounds, I only had one chisel ground blade ever in my collection. It was a JB Stout, and that thing was one of the sharpest knives I've ever had.
Yep.
So I know that would go really well with the theme of being very thin and slicey. We'll just have to see how it's manufactured. It's manufactured a little bit differently. I'm not sure if like Seth knows how to grind a chisel round blade. I don't think he's done that before, but well, definitely.
Yeah, it's definitely a bit different for sure.
Yeah.
So let's pause right there, actually, because that's another thing I had a question about. I made a comment about, it looks kind of like production-ish on the handle, but I also mentioned the blade looks very custom. So you guys actually hand grind these, right?
Yes.
Yeah, like these are really, really nice. Like very, very well designed. I love the belly on it. I mean, this knife is going to be slicing great, and everybody can see how thin it tapers. Tapers very high too, by the way. The grind comes very high. So I like that.
And just to be, I guess, fully transparent, we were looking at like both machine ground and like hand ground blades, and how what are the differences in those. And actually the machine ground blades are much more expensive. It takes such a long time to grind these blades, and it destroys the tooling very fast, and those are like expensive. So the manufacturers don't want to do machine ground blades. The ones that you see that have been machine ground all have like lower hardness blades, so like maybe 58 or lower. So if you know I don't want to talk about too much about like other controversies that happen to some other companies.
Yeah, no, we're a drama-free channel here. Leave all that crap for other channels.
Yeah,
but I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
So that's why with the like 62 Rockwell hardness blades or higher, hand ground is definitely a lot more affordable, and plus you can do like hollow grinds on it. So it's just nicer overall. It's just a better option. But the problem is you have to find someone who knows how to grind blades very well, which luckily we have found one.
And Jim is in the house now and says, real men, Jim Skelton, real men drag their knives behind the car. Yes, I did not do that with this one. Maybe we'll do that later. I don't know. But yeah, Jim did a great video, several videos on the Atlas here. And so, that
is a great knife. Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we're talking about it's not a production knife. And we're talking about how some of the pre-orders are in production. Like that's more of a terminology. It's not a production made knife, but they are now being produced as a semi-custom knife. Just to try to be clear there. I don't want to confuse people of this.
So
And then-
would you classify it as a
I appreciate it,
mid-tech
Jim.
or
Thank you, sir.
like a
Always count on you.
hybrid, custom? Like, what do you classify your knife as?
I think this particular line would be more like a mid-tech, where it has a ton of time that Seth has to spend on it. And yeah, it's essentially it's a mid-tech piece, because like the Thailand part, I'll consider it as a production because it's it's made by OEM who hasn't made knives before. They usually make car parts. I had to
Okay.
convince them that this is a project worthy of your attention.
Are you a car guy?
Not entirely a car guy, but I just happen to find a manufacturer that produces car parts.
Okay.
Smart.
So
Yep.
because there's no like real big knife manufacturer, especially for folding knives. There's none in Thailand. It's not like when you go to China, you have a lot of choices. You can go to Riyadh.
Yeah, agreed.
So, but I wanted to like have, I wanted to visit the shops and be able to see the knives in person and see the pieces and parts and, meet the people there and develop with them, along with them. So like this Thai manufacturer also like bought a new like heat treat oven and things like that just for our project. So they were willing to invest in quite a few items to work with us. So
Yeah, so they're investing in you also, and
Yes.
Avian Knives and this company over there that's manufacturing and working on some of the parts can also grow together. I think that's a great way to do it.
Absolutely. And that shows enthusiasm too, right? Like they're buying equipment for your project. That to me sounds like a long-lasting relationship.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
Absolutely excited to see what else comes out.
So yeah. And going back to Jim real quickly,
yes.
One of the first posts that we had, there's like always someone who says, "Oh no, it's gonna fall apart because it's like a jigsaw knife." So I was like, "Seth, how strong is this thing?" Because I didn't have the prototype back then. And then he took his knife, he took a video from a third floor, and he just threw it out inside the third floor of his into concrete. And the only thing that happened was like the tip of the blade was a little bit chipped, but you can easily just resharpen that. And the rest of the knife functions perfectly. So I was like, okay, good. Maybe we should do a video on it or something like that and have someone who, is great at
Can I try?
On my personal one?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Maybe on the one that Jim has already beat up, well, we can refinish it and then you can throw it out of the window again.
Yeah, I was going to try to look for Jim's destruction video. I'll find it and then I'll leave it in the description or the comments after this. Because I won't be able to find it here real quick, I don't think.
Yeah, being as light as it is, I've had knives where I got out of the car and the seatbelt, gets caught on the pocket clip and the knife falls. That's always a nightmare situation, and it
destroys the pocket clip. That's what's happened to me. I haven't had it really pull out, but it's gotten stuck, and it's bent the pocket clip all to hell. And I'm like, God darn it.
Yeah.
I would have rather it just pulled it out of my pocket and dropped it on the ground rather than destroy my clip.
Yes.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that it's, gonna be fine and it will last you, as long as it can, or as long as you do, at least.
Right. So here's a comment cool. from Byron. The auto parts manufacturers are used to those tolerances and most of the equipment and processes. Heat treating their investment. So yeah, the auto parts places are familiar with tolerances. So a part is a part really to those guys. So I think that works great.
Well, I think the easiest way to explain that comment is that automotives go under a lot of stress, a lot of structural stress, and material longevity and durability is a very important part of that.
Yep.
So, they know to make a durable part with really good tolerances because, as you know, even when you get into the aftermarket sector, that can be even more challenging because you're going to have to try to replicate an axle that fits into like, a Chevrolet or whatnot. So they're pretty good at making their own tools, and there's a lot of skill in that field. So I respect that. I'm in the automotive field in service with technicians, so I'm a car guy and tools and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Will asks another question, but I think Jim kind of answered it. But for anybody else here, so why Avian knives as a name? And then Jim Skeller kind of chimes in with how you guys went into detail. It's really about a bird's hollow bones, making them lightweight but still strong. Is that kind of the gist of it there?
Yes, exactly. Well, we wanted first like a cool name, but then something that's lightweight, like birds. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to be able to fly, be as light, especially like this one. It resembles more on like the bird skeletons.
Yeah,
where like
stop.
it's like structural integrity.
Drop that thing in the mail. Put it in the mail on Monday. Call it good.
I'm still testing it to make sure that it's good. And this won't be the
test
final finishing, by the way. There'll be we'll have 3 different finishes planned right now, essentially, but this would be blasted, so it's a more even finish instead of like a satin ground blade. So this is like a pre-prototype version of this knife. So
you're saying that if I do get that one, I shouldn't drag it behind my car?
No, not this one. I'd like to keep this one for historical purposes.
I think that's cool because, like people don't realize too, you can't just go and randomly like remove weight, like wherever, like there is a science to that. That's kind of like engineering, And so anytime you remove material and people focus on the look of the thing, there's like a science to making it look good too. Is that right?
Yes.
Nick asks again, what's the name of the new design? I don't remember now.
The name is called the Topasa. Essentially, the Pasa is like named after one of the hummingbirds.
Okay.
So very like like the small lightweight ones. So all the production knives will have like bird names type.
Okay.
Situation.
I like
and then
that.
the mid-tech ones, the fly class, would be like rockets, like the Atlas. So
okay, gotcha.
That's cool. I like that.
That's super cool. I'm super excited to have handled the one and excited for the future as to what's coming out. I love it.
Yes.
The Topanga.
I'm really excited to show this to you guys today.
Yeah, no, that was great. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that.
We all like boobies, don't we?
Oh boy.
Jim.
Yeah, and we've been on about an hour, so that's about it. We kind of start to go down. That's when we know we've been here.
Get creative.
That's when we know we've been here for a while.
Yes.
Cool. Well, anything else you want to share about Avian knives?
I think we get to hear if anyone else has like questions. Any of the viewers have any questions that they want to ask?
Yeah, let me scroll back through the comments too. If anybody has any questions, please speak now or ask them later on another day. But I'm just going to see if we missed anything here real quick. But
I like the boobies comment.
Of course you would.
Of course I would.
I'm not sure. I after I saw Jim dragging the thing behind his car, I'm like looking through my own Netflix and I'm thinking, is there anything I want to do that to? Like, I don't know. I mean,
he was giggling like while he was doing it too,
Right? Jim. He saunters into the room and immediately lowers the collective IQ. Oh man, you elevate us. You
Oh,
elevate us. We hate you, but we love you. Like, and we only
yeah.
hate you
The
because
reason why we're all here.
you're
just
the
love
reason
him.
why a lot of us are all here. Because if it hadn't have been for your videos eons ago,
Mhm.
I would have saved a lot of money because I wouldn't have bought a lot of the stuff that I bought. So thank you, but yeah, you know, what are you gonna do? Ah, all right, Will, what do you got here? Are you going to media blast all your Thai to work harden them?
That's what
Uh,
she said.
I think the not all of the knives will be media blast. I'm not sure what you mean by to harden them, but for me, after trying many knives, what the texture that I like are like orange peel, media blast, because it's a little bit more grippy in the hand. Um, but it depends also which type of media you use. If it's like glass or ceramic or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So we'll try a few. Um, I also want to try Surblast in the future, but you need like a separate machine for that. So we'll see when we can invest into that. And
That's a
yeah,
cool
it's
process too.
definitely in the mid tech area. We wanted to have different materials. So something like carbon fiber backspacer would make it look really cool and make it
Yeah.
even lighter. Or
Well, you started talking about
inside.
Timascus earlier when we were
Yes.
chatting, right?
Yes.
And now you're getting my attention, like I
Mhm.
like buying that stuff,
Yes. And definitely we're considering Damasteel blades, etc., because that's one of the suppliers we have in Thailand. So that's one of the main reasons why we use RWL34 for the main production.
Yeah.
Because the two steels that we have that are like high quality steels in Thailand are, one is M390, but
Okay.
that's like super backlog, and you
Oh
have to
yeah.
order a huge, massive amount. It's
Oh
like
yeah.
a really, really big piece, and or RWL34, which is in like much smaller sizes, and also I think for me, I've had better luck with them because it's easier to resharpen.
Okay.
So
Easier
I
to
don't
heat
know,
treat too.
personally, I feel like it finishes more nicely as well,
Mhm.
like when you finish the blade. So
Well, the heat
that's
treat
why
protocol is much wider on it, isn't it? Like you can have more of a heat treat variance and get away with it with RWL34, whereas M390 you kind of really have to nail it to get it right, I think.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're like really focused on, hardness.
Mhm. I think and the Thai manufacturer also bought the Cairo treatment equipment as well, because before they didn't have that. So that's also a new thing that they got in for this run. So it should be nice and hard and even.
That's what
Um,
she said.
yeah.
Okay. So
And then,
Will, getting back to it here. Will says that the titanium work hardens with use. So the more you use it, the harder it gets. The media blasting it will help it to work harden faster. I guess I think is what he's
I'm
trying
about to explode right there.
to point. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We're just moving on.
Yeah, I think titanium is it has to be retain its flexibility. That's the key point why we use titanium frames instead of like aluminum or steel frames, because
Right.
those aren't flexible. So it's not, especially on the lock bar, it's hard to tune it on something other than titanium. It's not as easy, or it'll be stiffer.
Yep.
You can just imagine like if you have a pocket clip and you have it made out of steel or something else, it's
Right.
usually going to be tougher to get it out, given the same amount of thickness of the material.
I think
Yeah.
a good
Agreed.
example of that is like zirconium pocket clips,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Like those things are a pain in the butt. I have a few of them, and like it's like if you flex them too much, they just snap off real quick.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Or I think zirconium is like it doesn't bend back, so when you bend
Right.
it stays bent.
It just
up.
stays.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't have as
It
much
doesn't, like,
spring
come back.
memory.
Not as much spring memory. That's
Yeah,
the way to put it.
exactly. That's
Yep.
that's exactly. So
I'm a science geek.
Oh boy,
I love those fancy terms, the big words.
love it.
Yes, but overall, like my impression of the knife is you did a great job. It does, have that appearance of longevity. I like the whole toolless idea, like some of the other knives we mentioned before. I think this offers something different. And I really dig the whole idea of a lightweight knife and how you keep pushing the envelope of doing that. And another thing, if I have anything to say about it, one of the things I told Dirk was kind of a big deal for me was this blade, the way that it's ground. The fact that it doesn't look like a machine ground blade was kind of a big deal for me. Like, I like that. I think that that's something you should consider keeping with this line. That action is scary on this one. So, as confirmed by the other guy, they're not.
That's not how the
other ones
final
are.
produced ones were. So that's
And
great.
also,
Great job.
when you talked about the action just before, it just reminded me of, why I told Seth, let's have the flipper tab up, in front. So one of the knives that I really liked was the Shirogorov Pero.
Yes, I
I'm not
remember
sure
that
if you
knife.
but it's way in front. That's also a super lightweight piece because it's full carbon fiber with a tab lock. But the main reason why it's easier is because, like, when you pull it down, when at the point where your finger is released from the blade or the flipper tab, it's almost 90 degrees already.
Right.
If you have it back here, most knives, like if you do the same thing, it will be
You don't have
more
as much leverage.
Yeah, you don't have as much leverage, so you need a harder detent, or you need like a smoother knife, etc. But having it up top makes it a lot easier to flip. So you don't need as much effort to flip the knife open. You can give it to someone who's like new to knives, and then it'll flip open. So that's one of the reasons why I chose, let's put it in front, and it can flip out easily.
And it's very tucked away too. Like, it's non-intrusive whatsoever. Some of us who've been like watching knife reviews for a while remember, we all know Nick Shabazz talks about the pocket pecker phenomena, which, by the way, I'm gonna just throw it out there that I don't like follow that jive. Like, Skiff Made Blades has a big flipper. I love it. Like, I don't the size
Shiro
doesn't matter.
has it kind of sticks out here on
Exactly.
the Shiro, but it works great and it doesn't bother me. But if we go by your comment there, by the time you release my finger
one's
is
only at a 45.
So it's like at 45.
So
and I kind of looked down as you were mentioning that at what I have kind of here on the table, and even this one, again, it's like 45.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point that I didn't even notice.
I think those, even the ones you mentioned, are already great flippers, so they have good leverage already.
Yeah,
because the tab is so long, it's already
agreed.
Making up for.
But for those people that do have that issue, and I know tons of them that hate big intrusive flippers, and I don't mind them at all. I have plenty in my collection, but at the same time, there are certain knives that I bought literally just because of the flipper tab. And one of them was the Sienkiewicz collaboration that came out before the Pero, the Sigma. So I have one of those, and that flipper tab is literally like almost non-existent on a knife. They really pushed the envelope on that knife. Like, it's almost not enjoyable for some people. I love that knife, but you did kind of better than even that knife could do, where you gave it a very low profile, but you gave it plenty of leverage to swing it out so easily, which I think is great. So, as you mentioned, this is not a knife that's very difficult to open and close. And I think that's really a nice part of the design as well. So good job, man.
But in the end, I have to also credit Seth, because Seth is ultimately the real designer who put everything on CAD.
Agreed.
Let's
even
definitely
when it has to like go to a CNC manufacturer, you still have to have like usually with with knife CNC guys, a lot of them are used to just having drawings and they're okay. But for
Right.
others, they need like engineering drawings. Like in construction, you
Yep.
have like
Right.
the engineering drawings, which we also have to do in addition to the CAD files.
So, like
that's-
in the operation, is he like the dirty fingernails and you're like the suit? Is
I
that kind
think
of how that works?
I'm more responsible for things like marketing, finance, etc. And
The
he's
suit.
really production.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
He's the
that's
dirty
cool.
hands guy. You're the
Yeah.
clean hands guy, which is fine.
I think
how
that's
it
awesome,
works.
actually. That's a great pair up.
Great way to do it. I think you guys
Because it's a lot of work, right? Like,
it is.
and you got to do sometimes like doing things like simultaneously is impossible. So if there's two of you, you're
Yep.
like literally saving a lot of time as long as both parties are investing the right time. I mean, I'm sure Jim, can tell you, sometimes on knives, like it takes time to do that stuff.
Yeah, it's not easy at all to do it alone.
Oh,
To
there was
have to make knives and then do the customer service and then post something about it. It's
yep.
like
Yep.
running everything on your own is not easy for sure. Yeah.
Right.
There
Very cool.
was a comment way early on that I totally missed that I wanted to come back to, but you just mentioned Jim, and so it kind of anyway. I can't find the comment right now, but the comment was: have any of us seen Jim Skelton's new production knives? And my answer is no. We have not seen them in person. Jim's supposed to send me one, hopefully.
I've
so
seen
that I
pictures.
do a full thing. We've seen pictures. We've seen what you guys have seen. So at some point, once Jim gets them and is ready to start shipping them, I've already told him to send me one. Asked him
Me
to send me
too.
one. So I hope to get one early on to then talk about, and then hopefully it's perfect, so I don't have to upset Jim because I don't want to do that. But I will tell you guys my true thoughts. But no, we have not seen them in
harassed him
person.
for years about a folding knife, and it's usually replied by him with an "fu." And
I know, so it's kind of
it's
interesting.
special right now. It's a special
Yes.
moment for me right now.
Yeah. So perfect. So Jim says there will definitely be a Dirk discussion on the Caladan. Is that how you pronounce Caladan? Calderon? Caladan? And an Alexplation. So we've got some new terms out there. I may have to start using Dirk discussion in my titles. I don't know. We'll see.
I like the Alexplanation.
I like Alexplation maybe better than the discussion. Dirk discussion. I don't know. I like them both.
I got to put a pause, like an Alexplanation.
Okay, so it's Caladan is how you pronounce it. Caladan. So, yes, right from the horse's mouth, Alex and Dirk will both get one to discuss.
Like California.
Yeah. Oh, see, I feel special now. You kind of named a knife after my home state.
Oh man, I'm yeah.
It must be an awesome knife then.
Don't get people from Texas started on California. Just don't.
Yeah. So
here he goes. Here we
go. All right. So on that happy note, once we get these other ones from Jim, once Jim gets them, then we'll have a discussion about that, and we'll have Jim back on the show here to talk about that knife too. Once they get them, and once Alex and I get them, we can have Jim back in to talk about them because Jim's always a good time to chat with and whatnot. And
yeah, he's overdue.
So Caladan is from. A few geeks here know what Caladan is from. So it has nothing to do with California. That was just for pronunciation. All right.
I would like to pretend like I was intelligent enough to know what that is, but I'm not. I'm just going to keep here and stay quiet because I don't.
Yeah, it's something like Game of Thrones thing or something dumb that I totally missed out on. I don't know. I don't know what it's from either, Jim, but
it's the Praetorian Guard from the back in the
I don't know
Middle Ages.
Well, Rit, thank you very much for taking time on your Sunday morning. I greatly appreciate that.
Well, thank you so much for having
And
us.
for sending this over and letting me check it out and letting me send it to Alex to check out. So once Alex does a video and all that, we'll get it back to me to send to you, or Alex to you, or so. We'll figure that out here in a couple of weeks or whatever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming in, and thank you guys all for hanging out with us for a little bit and your comments and questions. I thought it was a great show, and we'll be back in a week or two with another guest. Maybe, I don't know. We kind of fly by the seat of our pants here. We figure out about a week before what we're going to do, but we're trying to get a little bit more organized and get some more guest makers, some collectors on and things like that. So, but we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Please stay tuned.
Yeah, make sure.
Comments, Alex?
Yeah, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, all that YouTube stuff that we
that
suck
stuff.
at asking and begging people to do. That's why we've got like no like. Yeah. That's why this channel is very small, because we don't beg everybody to do all that stuff. But same with our main channels. We're not like Jim, and I don't have big graphics that say subscribe on every video and things like. I'm not fancy enough for that.
I think I need to put more boobies on my channel, and then I'll get more subscribers.
All right. Well, on that note, you all have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for your time, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.